Hey, buddy, do you like to swing? Come with me. You're listening to Emma Clair, the best of all things swinging on Prohibition Radio.
Hello, I'm Emma Clair and welcome to the Prohibition Radio Show. It's September and we are into the third month of our brand new interview series where we speak to some of electro-swing's best loved DJs and producers. This month it is the turn of the UK's Jamieberry. Now Jamie is super busy holding down a job as a music teacher, producing awesome music and also being a dad, so it's been really hard to pin him down. I'm really excited though, we've managed to do it just in time for the release of his new EP actually, coming out on the 25th of September. It's called Prohibition. You guys heard it here first. We do kind of briefly talk about that in the interview, as well as some interesting things, including sandwiches. What am I on about, I hear you ask? Well, we best dive straight in, but before we do that, I just need to let you know, if you are looking for the music show, then you need to head over to YouTube or Mixcloud /Prohibition MCR.
Prohibition Radio, coming live and direct from Manchester, England. Yes, swinging.
Hi Jamie, thank you for speaking to the Prohibition Radio Show.
Hiya.
How are you? I'm
doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you for asking. I know there's loads of people that are super excited about this interview. Lots of the Prohibition regulars are big fans of yours, but for people that don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how and where did it all begin?
Yeah, so I'm, put in the electro-swing category, producer, DJ. The inception of it all started with my granddad, who's a classically trained pianist, and he also plays like swing music and stuff. So he kind of got me into playing the piano, and it all kind of snowballed from there. I just became obsessed with music, played guitar in a bunch of bands when I was a teenager. And then I studied music production at university in Leeds, and kind of met a bunch of people there who kind of got me into making music on a computer. Most notably a guy called Alan Bluestone. He's kind of like probably the biggest trance producer in the world right now.
Oh,
and
nice.
he showed me how to like make music on a computer. And from then just obsessed with making kind of like anything, but mostly kind of dance music. And then around about 2012, I saw a video, and it's the video that everyone's seen of Power of Stella's Cat Groove with the green horrible carpet, and that just made me go, right, that's the kind of style I want to have a go at doing. And then and that's how I started getting into electro swing. So thanks Power Off.
Yeah, I know Power Off has been like a big inspiration to like so many people, including myself. So in 2012, you released the marvelous single, and before that, I had a look on Spotify. I did my homework. You released an EP called "Come With Me," which was kind of like more towards the electro and big room genres. Obviously, the marvelous one, there was the vintage samples kind of started to come into play. So is that kind of your first kind of transition from the big room more into the electro swing? Was you kind of testing the water? I mean, how did that one come about? I know you've kind of spoken about Power of Stella, but
well, I guess my route into dance music was a little bit more unusual because I grew up on like listening to like the Beatles and like AC/DC and like kind of guitar bands. So when I was like started writing dance music, I was writing it with like a guitar head on. I was writing it like, I still call the drop the chorus. Which is like, if you're like speaking to dance producers, that's this is the verse. It's like, no, it's not. This is the breakdown. And I think what happened was with when I was kind of writing those dance tunes, I was still like loving the organic instruments. So I was always trying to like put in like a sampled guitar or like a real bass line. So when I started like kind of using sampling, the whole electro swing thing kind of like almost like fitted perfectly. So I have actually got some other stuff that I think got taken down, which I'd released before Come With Me, and that kind of maybe had more kind of hints as to how it would kind of pan out in terms of fusing with those vintage styles.
That's cool. And how, I mean, obviously electro swing is such a broad genre. How would you just, and every producer brings something different. How would you describe your sound to people?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it is electro swing, isn't it? I know people don't like to pigeonhole themselves in genres, but it is what it is, isn't it? It's electro swing, and I've been calling it electro swing, for the last 7 or 8 years now. So I like the whole like vintage remix thing. It broadens it out, and it's great. I don't think it's good to get too bogged down in what it's called, but I guess my sound is kind of I always like the idea of like an element of surprise in music. Like I love listening to something for that feeling you get for the first time, and it happens much more in dance music than any other style, I think. It's that kind of like that build up to what you think it's going to be, and then when the drop comes, it's like, wow, didn't expect that at all. And I think what I like with whenever I'm trying to make music, I'm trying to make it so it has that kind of element of surprise. So I like the idea that it kind of takes you somewhere that maybe you weren't expecting, or adds something that you weren't expecting. But also, I love listening to like those old records from like the 20s and the 30s, like, and I love the idea of like music like transporting you back in time. And it's quite easy, isn't it, to take like an old sample from the 1920s and stick it on a drum beat, and it sounds good straight away. That's why it's quite a satisfying genre of music to make, because it sounds good straight away. But I think to really kind of like take it to the next level, like just kind of doing little things to really take you back in time. So I think my style is kind of like probably the heavier side of electro swing, but also like the idea that it's kind of got that escapism, I think, which I'm kind of more leaning towards now. Telling more of a story.
That's cool. Yeah, I think a lot of your tracks definitely do tell a story. I mean, obviously, you've been releasing electro swing for 8 years now, and you've had such an impressive string of hits. But I just wanted to talk about the one that probably everybody talks about when they think of jamieberry, which of course is Delight, which kind of catapulted your career, shall we say. You racked up millions and millions of streams across YouTube and Spotify, and got onto numerous TV ads. When you wrote that track with Octavia, did you get the feeling that it was going to be a big hit? And how did you feel, obviously, when you saw it just skyrocketing? How did it make you feel with that massive success?
Well, thank you for such a lovely introduction.
Jamie did not pay me to say that. That came from me. I never thought it was a hit. Like, in fact, the opposite. Delight kind of has all the characteristics of like what you shouldn't do to make a hit. I mean, you call it a hit. I still don't see it as a hit. Like, it's never had any like Radio 1 play. It's never been in the charts. But then that's the weird thing about the music industry, isn't it? Like, the song, like you said, I think the last time I checked, if you include it being used on YouTube as things like Slow-Go Man used it for his intro, it's had like 2.5 billion plays collectively. Yet it's never been like on the radio. So it's really strange, but it's like kind of, it's 5.5 minutes long and it's the intro is like a minute long. So like you talk about, did I think it was a hit? Like, no, like I listened back after the master thinking, oh God, that intro takes like forever to actually do something. Like, it's such a long intro. Yeah, I get you.
I remember recording the vocals. I'd met Octavia on Soundcloud, and I invited her up from London to Leeds, and I was living in like a shared accommodation at the time. And when she got there, I bought this like condenser mic off eBay. And like the pops were like horrible, and I was still like learning like my craft, and so I ended up getting like a coat hanger and borrowing my housemate's tights and making like a makeshift pop shield. And she was watching this the entire time. She must have been thinking like, who is this guy? Like, invited me all the way from never met him before, like fondling with tights and a coat hanger. So it didn't feel like it was ever going to be, when you write a track like that, it's like you never dream of it being, I mean, how it became. And, you know, it's crazy, and it's still, you know, it's still kind of getting traction. I mean, we only just recently did a big sync deal with Fiat, which, you know, it was in every country in Europe and Africa. Like that was in January, and it's insane. Like the song was released like 8 years ago. So yeah, I feel like really kind of humbled by, you know, by the response to that song, and I am eternally grateful for it, because it was the gateway, like you said, to kind of opening the doors up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting point what you say, actually, about how I obviously class it as a hit, but it never made it into the charts. But I think, as you say, that kind of just shows how the music industry is going these days. It doesn't, I think, the charts, although it's, you know, some artists, like, that's what they aspire to. There's obviously the underground scene and the dance music scene that isn't necessarily gauged by the charts. And yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, what do you think about that track? Was it that resonated with people? Do you think it was the lyrics in there, or what do you think it was that people kind of latched onto?
Not sure. It was like a perfect storm. I mean, it started off with the piano, and it was actually a friend of mine at the time who was over, and he told me he played jazz piano. I went, oh, quickly, do something on the piano, like, let me record you. And that was the first thing he did. And it was there for like 3 minutes. He just recorded that, and he went, there you go, mate, cheers, and walked off.
That's amazing.
So it started off. That was the piano. And then my manager at the time, his dad, who wrote the brass parts, he wrote brass for he's like a music producer, like 40 years. He wrote music for film. So when he wrote the brass part, I think unintentionally he had his kind of film head on. So maybe that had something to do with why it was so successful with like the sync deals, because of that. He had that hook that was in there. And then obviously Octavia, you know, I think she was 17 when she recorded that. So she was like really young, had never done anything like that before. And I think just the fact that none of us really knew what we were doing kind of ended up, the innocence of it,
I was about to
maybe
say,
might have contributed to the fact that I guess that you can never pinpoint it, can you? Like and it is the most simplest of ideas, which end up becoming like, you know, it was not the most traditional way of like writing a song, but it seemed to work. So
absolutely. I know this is possibly a hard question for you, but out of all the tracks you've released, which has been your favourite and why?
Yeah, it's a hard question. I don't know. I mean, I'm quite a fickle person, and I think my favourite track always seems to be the one I've just written. Like I would be happy if I didn't hear Delight now for a long time. You know, so my favourite track at the moment is the one I've just finished called Mockingbird, and it's like really different to anything I've ever done before. It's like 78 BPM, and I really, really love it. But in about a month's time, I'll have got bored of that, and then it'll be like, right, it's you know. And if your favourite track isn't the one you've just written, then I think there's an issue, isn't there? Like you've got to be enjoying your most recent piece of work. So, but I kind of have to pick Delight, don't I? Really, because that song's I owe it, don't I? Like I owe that song something. 'Cause it's, you know.
Absolutely, but I can imagine you, as you say, I bet you do get sick of hearing it. I mean, you get that with singers that get known for a certain track, and then that's all they get booked to perform, and they're like, "Oh, really? This one again?" It's like I've done so many.
Can I not play my new track?
Exactly.
Can I not play my new track? Nah, mate, play that one.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
And I think that leads us on nicely, actually, to the fact that you have actually worked with quite a few vocalists. You've collaborated with bands such as Swing Growers, and you've done remixes. People like Alice Francis. Who's been your favourite producer or band to work with, and why?
I would say my favourite band that I've kind of worked with, and I say worked with in the sense that I've done a few remixes for them, has been the Electric Swing Circus, because they, apart from the fact they're just like a lovely bunch, and Tom is just a legend, isn't he, within the scene?
He is a legend.
He's such a legend, and when you kind of get a remix they kind of, when they break it down into the stems, it's really interesting because you get to kind of hear all the intricacies that make up the track. So I find it like, it's quite and with Electric Swing Circus, what always kind of strikes me is just the attention to detail in everything. And like, you don't always necessarily hear it on like the first, second or third take, but when you break it down into individual parts, there's so many like beautiful little things going on. And I've always just had so much fun like remixing their tracks. And the melodies and, you know, the vocals and everything's just always been like spot on. So yeah, I'd say they're kind of my favorite band to work with, as in like kind of remix and stuff. So yeah,
no, good shout on that one. I've got a lot of respect and admiration for the Electric Swing Circus, and yeah, big ups to Tom if you're listening.
And Ragtime as well, because Ragtime have also, I've never actually like released a song with them, like, you know, I've kind of worked with them through remixes, but they've always been like really good to me, like kind of invited me to swing them a jig a couple of times and like kind of done stuff. So yeah. Shout out to Ragtime.
Definitely. Big ups to Ragtime Echoes as well, Rich and Tom again. And is there anyone you've not yet worked with but would really love to?
I think my favourite singer at the moment who I'm really desperate to work with is Caro Emerald. And I think looking kind of, you know, on the trajectory of my career, I think she wobe be like the person who, you know, when you just get in a studio with and you just feel like kind of a bit of a fanboy. I wouldn't be able to look her in the face, I don't think, for the first half an hour. So she'd be my kind of dream electro swing collaboration at the moment.
Absolutely. So. And would you want to like remix one of her tracks? Is there a particular track that you like, or is it you want to kind of got original kind of stuff with her?
No, original. I'd love to do an original track with her. Yeah, I think that it would be really good. Like maybe kind of, because she does a lot like kind of 100 BPM kind of stuff, doesn't she? So kind of take like maybe like a kind of a Peeping Tom mixed with a That Man kind of collaboration kind of thing.
I'm loving the sound of that one. Let's make it happen, Electric Swing community. Let's rally around to make it happen.
Do you reckon she'll listen to this? If she's listened to this,
she might do. I mean, maybe we can send the show to her agent and let's make that one happen. So I'd like to kind of talk about clothing, because I know, like, obviously with the electro swing scene over the years, there's kind of been a lot of people that like to embrace the kind of 1920s dress code. I have not been stalking you, but I had a quick sneaky look on obviously your press photos over the years.
This is a ridiculous question, by the way.
It's not ridiculous. So obviously you used to wear flat caps and the braces, but it's interesting to see how your kind of style has evolved. Has that been as a kind of did you make that decision purposefully, or is it just kind of naturally kind of changed?
Well, I guess. Okay, so when I first started DJing, my manager at the time said to me, look, you know, you can't just turn up to these gigs wearing like a t-shirt and jeans, you know, you're meant to be, you know, the main person, like you're meant to be an artist and exciting, and you're doing like music from the 20s, so you need to kind of dress for the part. So my housemate bought me a trilby, and I remember the first time I wore it to a gig in Battersea in London, I just felt like an absolute tit. Like I was walking around thinking, I feel like a knob. Like this isn't me. Like, you know, when you just do something, just like this isn't me.
Yeah, I get you.
So, and I'm from a little town called Bourne in Lincolnshire originally. It's where I grew up. So I thought, well, if I'm going to be kind of forced to kind of take part in this like vintage dress code, I might as well wear something that's like original to me. So I ended up like buying a flat cap. And my friends at home, they do actually, like, they wear flat caps and stuff. So I thought I'll wear a flat cap and like braces and stuff. And like I quite enjoyed that. And like when you go to gigs, like, you know, especially like in Europe, like Austria and Germany, like you turn up, if you're not wearing vintage stuff, you look like the odd one. Everyone's like, you'll know, like everyone's dressed up. So it feels absolutely fine there. But when you turn up to a gig in like Luton, you know, like a rave or something, you turn up in a flat cap. It's not always a good look. So I kind of, over time, I ended up kind of realizing that actually, although like my style was, you know, electro swing, didn't necessarily mean I had to turn up to like every gig dressed like like the photos and stuff. And it wasn't like a conscious effort. It's not like we sat down in a board meeting and went, right, you know, let's all a board meeting. Jesus. It's not like I sat down and said like, so I made myself sound like some big shot there, like the board meeting. No, so it wasn't like let's change the dress code because we don't want to like be associated with electro swing. It was just over time. Now and again, like I'll put it on, but I like to just go comfortable and you know, just however I feel like dressing that day. So
no, that's a really
great. I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. You need to feel comfortable. I mean, obviously I DJ myself, and when I first started off with electro swing, I was like, flapper dresses, woo, like, you know, really throw myself in there. But I don't do dresses, and I didn't feel comfortable, and it shows if you don't feel comfortable. So I think it's just finding something that's true to yourself, and I think that's really important. So sorry for putting you on the spot there with that question, but I think a lot of people will be interested to hear the answer. So let's talk about 2020, because I know we've spoken about where it all began, but right up to the here and now. It's been a busy year for you already. You've released an official remix, you've had a single out and an EP, and away from music, you've recently become a dad. So I'd like to know, how do you juggle everything? Because you've got your job as a music teacher, the production, the DJing, and being a parent. That's a lot going on.
It is chaotic at times, and you know, anyone who's kind of in education will know that, you know, being a teacher is not one of those jobs that you can just kind of do on the side.
No.
You know, it's all encompassing at times, and it's but do you know what it's kind of taught me is that I'm still just as productive now as I was when I was a bachelor living on my own, because you just end up working smarter and working differently. So when, you know, back in the day where I might have had, you know, 40 hours a week to kind of sit at a computer and like make songs, you know, now I might only have like 10. But when I have that time, I'm like super prepared. So I kind of have a plan of what I'm going to do. I set myself goals for like, you know, every like 6 months of what I want to achieve. And I'm like super organized, and I don't kind of sit in there and like listen to stuff on loop over and over again, which, you know, as a producer yourself, you'll understand that you can waste a lot of time just getting stuck in the loop. So I really kind of like have forced myself to, and it's amazing how quickly you can finish pieces of music. I know it's not about how quick you can finish a piece of music, but it's amazing. It doesn't affect the quality. You just don't get stuck in that kind of bad habits of listening to stuff on a loop constantly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, actually. Be more focused, because, you know, having the time doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get more done. So I think that's really great, because I know there will be people watching this who either wondering like how people who are producers in the music industry juggle kind of family life. So that's good to know that it is possible. So I think that leads us on quite well to speak, obviously, about the big thing that's been on a lot of people's agendas this year is obviously the coronavirus lockdown. None of us expected to be in this situation, but I'd be just interested to see like how it's affected you. Have you had more time to focus on your music? Just tell us a little bit about like, you know, what's been going on for jamieberry.
I mean, it's obviously had a profound impact on kind of the live event side of things. So like everyone else, I've kind of lost every gig that I had booked for this year. But that's, you know, everyone's in the same boat. But it's been, then on the flip side, I've been able to write more music than I've written in a long time, and I've had more time to kind of work on stuff and really try and think carefully about my next steps in terms of what I want to release, how am I going to evolve my sound and stuff like that. Things that maybe I wouldn't have had time to do if I was gigging every weekend. So yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is try and take positives out of what is a pretty, you know, awful situation. But I think it's, there's been a lot of positives.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that's the thing to do with every situation. It's how you handle, isn't it? You can turn a negative into a positive with a good mental attitude. And do you think it will have, the coronavirus kind of thing is going to have a lasting effect on the music industry? How do you kind of see things panning out?
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I mean,
I love that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even want to like put money on it. I mean, wishful thinking. I like to think that in a couple of years' time, you know, we'll be sat in a beer garden or something and saying, "Oh, do you remember that pandemic year? That was crazy." But then I don't know if it's going to be, you know, longer lasting than that. I really hope not. But we'll see what happens. But I no idea.
It's impossible to say, but I mean, good news for jamieberry fans in a way, because it means we get more music, so hooray.
Well, there you go.
Everyone's a winner. So you've been around the world playing gigs in so many countries, which is obviously a perk of the job. Out of all the countries and cities that you played in, which was your favourite and why?
Which is my favourite? Well, I planned to take my wife and my daughter to Munich in Easter, and we had to like cancel, obviously. But and the reason why I wanted to take them there was because I told them it was my favourite place that I played when I was like DJing in Europe a lot, and Munich particularly. I don't know, I just love that city. There's something about it. I think it also helped that there's a guy called Joseph who's booked me a lot in Germany, who's now a really good friend of mine. I was actually going to go out and stay with him and his family, and he like really made me feel welcome. You know, I stayed at his house when I played in Munich, and he like, you know, the whole weekend he like looked after me, took me to like the best places to eat, like took me to all like the hot spots and stuff. And I think that probably had a big impact. But then also I can't not mention, I think Byron Bay in Australia is just the most beautiful place. It's crazy. And I played in like it's called the Beach House Hotel on the seafront. And yeah, that I mean, I've got a family who live just outside Byron Bay. So I'd been there before when I was like in my late teens. I traveled to Australia, but going back again, it's just anyone who's been to Byron Bay will know it's a beautiful place. Nice,
that's cool. And kind of like linking into the kind of like favorite cities, what's been your favorite show to play, like gig, festival?
Yeah, I guess it won't come to any surprise to anyone who's been. The gig that kind of sticks in my memory has got to be Boomtown.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, good.
I know. If I first, it's like cop out answering it. The first time I played Boomtown, never like. And did you played there a couple of years ago?
Last year I played. Yeah, with Alana Live. Yeah. It's I think what took me like by surprise. Not the festival itself is incredible, like immersive and like absolutely huge and vast, and like the most amazing artists play there. But what really struck me was before I went on stage, they had like a compere who was like kind of like introducing each act, and they just had like a string of like amazing. I think I came on after take 5. Oh wow!
But they had like a string of like amazing acts, like Electric-Swing Circus, take 5, like just loads of bands. And then I was like the first DJ on, so I was thinking, oh god, you know, when you walk on your own with a laptop and a controller, and there's like, and then suddenly you've had like a 9-piece swing band playing. It kind of, you feel like a bit like, oh, it's not very exciting.
No.
But like the guy like really like built it up. He was like, hey, we have all the way from Leeds, we've got when I came on stage, like just the reception from, I've never had anything like it. That reception from the crowd was just insane. And I think that's what makes it. It's like, not sound cliche or like corny or anything, but it is the people that go there. Like they whip up a frenzy, and they just seem to get like, they get just the most amazing atmosphere. So Boomtown definitely was probably my favorite gig I've ever done.
Absolutely, that was really cool. Yeah, definitely the people at gigs have a big part to play in it. And is there anywhere that you haven't yet played, but if you got the chance to, you'd want to?
Yeah, I'd love to do Glastonbury.
Nice.
Just for my dad, really. I think he would he would love that. And just because it's just the best festival in the world, isn't it? Like who wouldn't want to play? Like who wouldn't want to be walking on the same grass as like Paul McCartney,
exactly,
and Adele And I don't know why I said Adele.
Oh no, she's
God bless her, Adele.
Yeah, exactly. She's a good singer.
Just like superstars of the music, like the biggest people in the music industry, like all in like, you know, I think that'd be a great place to play.
For sure, definitely a cool one. And obviously you have played some pretty big gigs. Do you get nervous before you go on stage? And if so, how do you deal with the nerves?
I used to get really nervous. Not so much now, nerves, more kind of just anticipation. Just get a bit like fidgety. But I guess the nerves come from is my equipment going to work? I think that's my biggest nerve. Once maybe I have the same thing. Once I realise that the sound coming out of the speakers, I'm like, I feel like my anxiety reduces like tenfold, and then I can just kind of get on with it. But I hate the waiting. I really hate waiting. Like I hate being backstage and like just sat there waiting to play. But when I first started playing, I used to find it quite nerve-wracking. And I think like, I remember my friend came to watch me and he was like, yeah, you're really good, but you never once looked up like the entire time, like 2 hours. I was just like glued to my laptop. But it's just something you get used to. Like, I mean, I used to be terrified of public speaking. And then, you know, now I've been a teacher for, 7 years, you know, I can stand up in front of, 100 people and talk for an hour, and I never would have been able to do that. You know, so it's just kind of the more times you do it, you become desensitized and you become more confident. So yeah, it's over time, isn't it? Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, I think that's kind of like obviously talking about when you first started out, that kind of leads quite nicely into talking about the kind of new producers and bands are coming through in the electro-swing scene this year. It's been a really good year for music. I think it seems to be on the up. There's a lot of stuff being released. And this may be hard, and sorry to put you on the spot, but you can only pick one person, band, artist, singer, whoever. Who's your one to watch for 2020?
Well, because I've not been gigging much, I've not really been on the hunt for like new stuff. Obviously, like I do like I do kind of watch and see like stuff that's coming, but I haven't been as kind of active. But I guess, and it's probably quite patronizing to say they're up and coming because they're like super established. But I think that like obviously like Dirty Moonshine, big band, is a one to kind of to watch. Because they seem to be like, I mean, Mike seems to be on an absolute mission to take on the world, doesn't he, at the moment? And he's doing a pretty good job of it so far.
He's on
Dirty Moonshine. Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, he's like a dog with a bone. Yeah, I think
he really is.
I think. Those guys are. I think their sound and what they're trying to do is spot on, and it's exciting, and I think that's kind of what the scene needs, really, more of that.
100%. It's interesting you picked Dirty Moonshine, actually, big band actually, because Barton Baker picked them as well. So
oh, did they? Oh, wow.
Yes, they did. So big ups to Mike. We all we're 100% behind you. Yeah, I think it's really positive for the scene. Mike deserves it as well. He's an absolute workhorse. So yeah, big ups.
Yeah, he is.
Moonshine. And what advice could you give to any aspiring DJs and producers that might be listening to the show?
It's funny you ask that because my brother also kind of makes music. He doesn't like tend to release it, and the reason he doesn't release it is because he never finishes his tracks. And it's the same advice that I give to everyone. It's like, just make sure you finish your music, because you go through that, like as a producer yourself, you'll go through that kind of, a new idea. Oh, it's really exciting. You have that kind of moment of like, wow, this is like, I'm onto something great here. And then you get tired of it. And then before you know it, you just go, I'll move on to the next thing. So yeah, my advice would be just to like make sure you just finish stuff, and because then at least, even if you don't do anything with it, at least you've got like something to show. Like no one likes listening to like unfinished tracks. And try and make original stuff. Like take your own influences. I think it's better when people start making music where they haven't really been involved in that scene, and it's more exciting. Like I'd love to hear electro-swing written by a guy who's been in a heavy metal band, or by a girl who's been in like, I don't know, African drumming, because they'd probably bring some like really cool ideas. Whereas if you listen to electro-swing by someone who's just made tech house their entire life, you kind of know what you're going to get, don't you? So I think try and make something original, make it interesting, and put your own stamp on it.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I think it's sometimes it's quite nerve-wracking when producers start out and you want to be different, but you kind of want people to accept your music as well at the same time. But I think it's all just being brave and putting yourself out there. So
exactly. Yeah.
Good advice. Now we all want to know, I want to know, and I know a lot of people will be listening want to know, what does the future hold for Jamie Berry? What can we expect from you the coming months and years?
Well, I don't like to plan too far ahead because as this year has shown, you never know what's kind of coming around the corner. But well, this is a great opportunity, and thank you for bringing it up. It's my new EP, which is going to be, I think, is going to be released early to mid-September. I haven't got an exact date for it yet. Possibly the 4th of September. It's a 5-track EP, and I'm really excited because there are a couple of tracks on there which I think are completely different to anything I've done before, like completely different. So I'm excited to kind of put something kind of fresh out there. I'm going to be working on another single before the end of the year, so you'll probably get another couple of releases out of me before 2021. And then next year, I'm just going to be hounding Carol Emerald from every angle until she agrees to do a collaboration with me.
Amazing. And is the EP and the singles that coming out on Flat Records?
No, they're going to be, I'm releasing them independently.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Great. And why have you kind of switched to the kind of self-releasing? Or would you?
I guess it was part of me just wanted to like understand the process a bit more, because what I realized is that, you know, when you're writing the music and you're working with other people, you kind of send it off and then the artwork suddenly appears out of nowhere, and then you get some masters in your email, and then you get told kind of when it's going to be released. And I loved that for a long period of time. But now I actually really love being like a part of like creating the artwork. I think that's so important to having, you know, a kind of a rounded, piece of work, and just having a bit more like control over stuff, and, you know, setting my own kind of deadlines, not being kind of stuck with other people's deadlines and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm not kind of saying I'll be releasing stuff independently forever, but just at the moment, I'm really enjoying it and just kind of doing my own thing. That's
cool. I know I've spotted quite a few, not just in the electro-swing scene, but kind of like the wider music industry, that quite a lot of producers seem to go down the self-release route. Just kind of linking it back to electro-swing, what do you think the future holds for our scene? Do you see it growing? Do you see it changing? Is it naturally going to evolve? What's your kind of like opinion?
Well, interestingly, when I think it must have been 2013, and there was a guy in Germany who was really he kind of was like a big player in the electro swing scene, and I sent him my EP Grandiose to listen to for some feedback, and he came back to me. He was like, "Oh yeah, it's good. It's really good." He went, "It's just a shame that, you know, electro swing probably isn't going to be about in like the next, you know, 18 months, couple of years time." I was like, "What do you mean?" He went, "Jamie Berry, I've been in the scene for a long time, mate, and I'm telling you now, you know, it's on a decline. I don't think there's going to be any more electro swing coming out after, like, you know." So it really kind of put me in a bit of a dark place about it, and I was thinking, "Oh no, this guy's basically just shattered the electro swing dream." And then here we are in 2020, and you know, like you said, there's more stuff being pumped out than ever before, and you know, it's not grown to the point where it's crazy big. You know, there's still like, you know, I bet if we showed 10 people electro swing, only probably one of them would be able to tell you what genre it was. But like subconsciously, I think a lot of people have heard of it because it's being used so widely on like TV and radio and stuff. So I think it's still got a future, but it relies on people like you and me and like Dirty Moonshine and all these other like producers and artists to make stuff that's exciting. I think if we keep on putting out the same kind of style all the time, then we give the wrong impression of what the genre is. And that's, and I think the one band I wanted to mention, which I haven't, who I think are the most important to the scene, hands down, are Caravan Palace. And I think even over Parastellar, I think Caravan Palace, they are the most forward-thinking electro swing artists out there. And all you need to do is listen to their last album to hear a sound that's kind of linked in with this scene, which we've never heard before. Like they're taking it again to another level. And as long as people like that are making music that's exciting, that's original, that's innovative, then the scene will be fine. It will keep growing. The only time I'll get worried is if it all becomes just one sound and people will just get bored of it. So
100%. That's cool. Yeah, good shout on Caravan Palace as well. I know that their latest album was quite different. I have to say, I listened to it and I was like, ooh, this is a bit of a change. But I think it's cool because even people listening to the new album, that will then link them back to the older stuff, and then it'll get people, kind of like investigating what's out there. So absolutely. Okay, so we have got some questions for you from the Prohibition listeners and also the Electro-Swing Facebook community group. So this first one is from Steve Ashcroft. He'd like to know what you are currently listening to at the moment and who is your favourite artist. It doesn't have to be from Electro-Swing, just whatever's on your playlist at the moment.
So I mentioned that I used to like play in bands and stuff. So at heart, I'm a massive like indie boy. Like I love like my indie music. And you being from Manchester, you surely must kind of love an indie band. Yeah. So I've been like really, really loving like just like some indie classics at the moment. I've been listening to like The Strokes, like Room on Fire, like Maximo Park, a band from Sheffield called Milburn, who are like awesome. So just been really enjoying like in the summer I always seem to end up listening to like loads of like indie music and stuff, so like guitar band stuff. So I know that's kind of probably, or maybe it's not a surprise at all, but it's just so good to kind of have a break from, if I was spent all my time listening to swing music, electro swing outside of making it, I don't think it'd be good for kind of working. So yeah, I try and like take a break and listen to other stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah, The Strokes, man. The Strokes are a good thing. Yeah,
I do have a soft spot for classic indie, like Britpop's my kind of favourite. The kind of like slightly cheesy bubblegum indie. It's like, excuse me. So I've got a question for you from Chris Skrinsky, aka Nanook. What music? No, you did actually speak about this earlier on in the interview, so sorry to kind of like duplicate your answer. But what music did your parents listen to? And what did you listen to when you were growing up? Do you think this has influenced the music you write?
Yeah, I mean, it is strange. Like when I rang at my granddad's a couple of years ago, and I was like, when I was like kind of trying to look for, samples of stuff that people might have not heard of before, a bit more obscure, and I had to ring him up and say, look, can you give me a list of like, singers or like bands or orchestras from the 20s that you think that might be a bit obscure? And he like sent me all this like sheet music, and it's just amazing. Like, the fact that when I was like 4 years old, he would sit and sing to me like all these old swing songs.
That's so cute.
And now I'm dressing up in a flat cap and braces and playing like remixes of his like favourite songs and ruining them.
What's this boom boom music?
Yeah, he's like, what have you done to that, Jamie? That sounds horrific.
No, that's really lovely.
Yeah, so he's been a big inspiration. But yeah, my dad was like, he was a guitarist and he used to play in a band and stuff. So he loves like AC/DC. Like, you ever heard of Rammstein, the German metal band?
I haven't. No, I'm not really big up.
He had like a weird obsession with them. They're really like obscure, like heavy metal.
Right.
I grew a lot on the Beatles,
nice.
Like Queen and stuff like that. So I think maybe quite a a variety of music, but not really any dance music. Not really any dance music when I was younger, which is strange.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. And final friend question. This is from Syed. Obviously, this question isn't really relevant at the moment due to coronavirus because nobody can play any gigs. But let's imagine there wasn't any coronavirus. Syed would like to know, why don't you do more international tours, considering you're famous worldwide? So Syed lives in Canada, so I think he's probably hinting as when you're going to come and play in Canada.
Well, I mean, famous worldwide sounds like I wouldn't agree with that, but he, he makes a good point. I would love to do more international tours, and if he has any contacts with any booking agents who want to book me for an international tour, then happy days. Obviously, I can't just get up and go to Australia for 2 months like I did, a couple of years ago, and just leave my 18-month daughter and wife at home. But I definitely am still DJing. I'm putting out new music, which I want to play live and play to people. So yeah, watch this space. I had a whole bunch of gigs booked for this year, ready to go, which got cancelled. But I'm sure I'll be back in Germany and whatnot. Very soon, hopefully.
Amazing. There you go. Watch this space. Okay, so finally, this is what we always finish our interviews off with. So it's a bit of a silly one. It's just a quick fire round. So beer or wine?
Beer.
I love that straight in there, beer. Shoes or trainers?
Trainers.
Yes.
Unless I'm wearing a flat cap and braces.
I shake things up. If I wear a flat cap and braces, I'll wear Converse with skinny jeans with it.
That is mad.
I know. So why not? Swing or jazz?
Swing.
Yeah. There was only going to be one answer with that one, wasn't there? On your nights off, do you stay in or do you go out?
I love staying in. Gotta love staying in now. Yeah. I'm 32. I'm too old for going out and seeing people.
I think it's a case of being a DJ though, isn't it? As well, you play that many gigs. It's like when you got a night off, you want to stay in and watch a bit of Netflix. You're going
Absolutely.
And the final question: what 3 things do you always take to a gig?
Laptop, headphones. Sandwiches. Always got to take a sandwich.
Sandwiches, I love that.
You never know when you're going to turn up and no one's put a spread on. And I need a good bite to eat before I play. So yeah, good sandwich.
That's brilliant. And what's on jamieberry sandwiches? What's your sandwich flavour?
I just like a classic BLT, good BLT. If I can treat myself to any a nice, if I'm feeling really decadent, like a Waitrose or an M&S sandwich, just anything on that is beautiful.
That's brilliant. I'm so rubbish at preparing for gigs sometimes. I'm usually the one in Tesco buying a meal deal 15 minutes before I've got to go on stage.
You got to eat. I know
exactly. I've got to eat. It's important.
People think DJs are just people who press play on a laptop, but it's still hard work. You've got to you've got to have some sustenance.
That's brilliant. Well, that's all we've got time for. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak to Prohibition. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great. It's been great talking to you, and I'm a big fan of all the stuff you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Prohibition Radio.
Thank you very much to Jamie. I'm still smiling from that interview. I had such a good time. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. It was absolutely awesome to speak to you. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And don't forget, if you are over on Spotify and you'd like to listen to Jamie's mix, then get yourself over to YouTube or Mixcloud /Prohibition MCR. I've been Emma Clair, and I should be back with you in October for another exclusive interview.
Hey, buddy, do you like to swing? Come with me. You're listening to Emma Clair, the best of all things swinging at Prohibition Radio.